Hi. So we're reading chapter 6 of Into the Land of the Unicorns, and this is the Queen's Amulets. And this chapter is dedicated to Penelope. "The amulet!" cried Kara. "Where did you find it?" The Dimplethumb looked at Lightfoot, who made some noises in his throat. With a shock, Kara realized that he was repeating her words, translating them for the Dimplethumb. But it made sense. Just because her connection to Lightfoot let her understand the Dimplethumb, there was no reason to expect that he would be able to understand her. When Lightfoot was done translating, the Dimplethumb made a sound deep in his throat that she took to be a chuckle. "Old Dimplethumb has his ways," he said. Crossing to where she sat beside Lightfoot, he dropped the amulet into her lap. She picked it up with her free hand, then cried out in sorrow when she realized that the golden chain had been broken. "Peace," said Lightfoot. "Chains can be mended. It is enough that we have it back." Blushing at the rebuke, Kara turned to the Dimplethumb and said, "Thank you." Lightfoot translated for her. The man-bear nodded and made a growl of acceptance. "How did you get it back from the Delver?" the unicorn asked, echoing Kara's earlier question. He spoke aloud for the Dimplethum's sake, at the same time sending the message to Kara. From the picture that formed in her mind, she understood that by Delver, he meant the creature that had attacked her in the forest. The Dimplethumb chuckled again. Friends of the Dimplethumb followed Delver through the forest. Friends of the Dimplethumb kept watch, kept track, kept hot on trail. Friends of the Dimplethumb showed the way. Easy to follow Delver, easy to crunch Delver, bring back amulet. Now the creature scowled and held out his big hand in a gesture that Kara understood to mean that he wanted her to hand him the amulet. Broken chain dangling over his furry fingers, he held it up and said, "What is not easy is what to do next. This cannot stay here." "Why not?" asked Lightfoot. "Look carefully. This is one of the 5. "Hoocha!" cried the Squeegee, running up the Dimplethor's side as if he were climbing a tree. "Let's see, let's see." The Dimplethumb plucked the Squidgum from his side and dropped into the floor. "Wanna see," he sputtered, but he stayed where he had landed, at least until the Dimplethumb held the amulet before Lightfoot. Then he scurried up underneath the large creature and looked up eagerly. After a moment, the unicorn sighed. "You're right, it is one of the 5. "What are you talking about?" asked Kara. Lightfoot closed his eyes. Many centuries ago, the Queen ordered the creation of 5 amulets to be used as rewards for those who had given great service to Leicester. The wisdom of this decision is still much argued, for the special property of these amulets was that under the right circumstances, they would let the bear pass between Earth and Leicester, without going through one of the main gates. This is a great power. Like most great powers, it carries the possibility for great mischief. "How did you come by this amulet anyway?" "My grandmother gave it to me." "Who is your grandmother?" asked the unicorn curiously. "Her name is Ivy Morris." That sounds familiar," he said after a moment. "I suppose I should have paid more attention in history." Kara was trying to take in the idea that her grandmother had done something so important in the history of this world, when the Dimplethumb growled, "The amulet must go to the Queen." "Wait a minute," objected Kara. "My grandmother told me to find an old one. That's where I want to go, and the amulet stays with me." At once she wondered if she would make the others angry, but Lightfoot actually laughed, a beautiful bell-like sound. "What's so funny?" she demanded. "One of the Queen's many names is the Old One. So the Dimplethumb is suggesting the same thing your grandmother wanted." He sighed and added, "Unfortunately, I think the Dimplethumb is right." "Of course the Dimplethumb is right," growled the creature. "If this amulet falls into the wrong hands—" He broke off, shaking his head as he thought. "I can help! I can guide!" chittered the Squeegee. Lightfoot's response to the little creature's claims was a terrific snort. "Small and fast," the Squeegee chattered, scampering around the Dimplethum's feet. "Small and fast, come look and find. Wanna go? Hoocha!" "If I say no, I suppose you'll follow us anyway," said Lightfoot. "Yes, yes, glorious yes!" he cried, hugging his tail. How about you? Lightfoot asked, turning to Dimplethumb. If we go to the Queen, will you accompany us? The creature made a series of wuffles and growls that translated to, the Dimplethumb will come part of the way with you. But despite your friendship with him, you know that he has little love for your kind, invaders that you are. He will not enter the court of the Queen. Invaders? Kara thought to Lightfoot. I'll explain later, he replied. Once it was decided that they were to carry the amulet to the Queen, the conference quickly ended. It was clear that the Dimplethumb was not the sort of to sit around and chat. Decision made, he was ready to leave. And since there was nothing to pack, no relatives to notify, no mail to be cancelled, there was not much for it but to get up and go. However, therein lay the problem. Both Kara and Lightfoot were still too weak to travel. Tomorrow morning at first light, promised the unicorn. I'll be ready then. The Dimplethumb made an unhappy noise deep in his throat. The longer we stay here, the more apt the Delvers are to come for us. They will be mad that the Dimplethumb took the amulet back. The Dimplethumb is more than a match for 3 or 4 of them. If they send more, the Dimplethumb and his friends could be in trouble. We'll be in as much trouble if we try to travel too soon, replied Lightfoot. Both the child and I will slow things down and make us easy targets. By morning, I will be at full strength, and can even carry her if necessary. The Dimplethumb grumbled, but admitted his sense in this. Scooping Kara into his great arms, he deposited her in the bed once more. He roamed restlessly about the cave for a while, and finally went back out into the night. Once he was gone, Lightfoot knelt beside Kara's bed. She placed her hands on his shoulder. I have so many questions, she thought to him. My mother says I have an answer for everything, he replied, sounding amused. Of course, she also claims most of them are neither right nor wise, but I'll do what I can. Where is your mother? Asked Kara. She had 1,000 other questions, all of them more pressing, but her sudden sense that the unicorn was perhaps not as old as she had first thought, combined with her own interest in missing mothers, pushed the other questions aside. She is at Summerhaven, said Lightfoot, with the Queen. Kara detected a note of uneasiness beneath his light tone. Remembering his earlier comment about it being unfortunate that the Dimplethumb was right, she said, You don't really want to go there, do you? I don't want to talk about it, he replied sharply. When you said that you had questions, I didn't realize that they were all about me. Kara lifted her hand from his shoulder, a little surprised that he could be so testy. After a moment, she tried again. Why did the Dimplethumb call you invaders? Lightfoot sighed. My friend does not like it that we unicorns came here from Earth. Actually, I don't think he minds us so much as the fact that in opening gates between Earth and Luster, we made it possible for others to enter as well. He holds the unicorns responsible for everyone who has come here as a result, including the Delvers. He paused and said, Also, I think something happened between Dimplethumb and the Queen. Unfortunately, I've never been able to get that story. Is the Queen a unicorn or a human? Asked Kara. Lightfoot snorted at the idea that the Queen might be a human. Her name is Arabella Sky Dancer, he said. She is the oldest and the wisest of our kind. Unfortunately, she's thinning now. Sometimes you can see right through her. Thinning? An uncomfortable silence fell between them. After a moment, Lightfoot muttered, I have said more than I should. Clara clenched her jaw. She hated that kind of half-secret. How far away is the Queen? She asked, looking for a question that Lightfoot would answer. Many days. How many depends partly on how fast you can travel. That and how much trouble we have along the way. Are you expecting trouble? It depends on what the Delvers are up to. Tell me about the Delvers. Nasty creatures, replied Lightfoot. She could feel his flesh shiver beneath her fingers. They live underground, and they are the sworn enemies of unicorns. His message didn't come precisely in words, of course. Part of it was an image of a Delver. Why are they enemies? Asked Kara. Many reasons, replied Lightfoot. He paused and added, "Our path will take us to Grimwold's cavern. Perhaps he will tell you more about them." Grimwold? He is the keeper of the Unicorn Chronicles, and he knows more stories than anyone in the world. However, right now I am only interested in one story, and that is the one in which we are all caught. In that story, the only clever thing for either of us is to get some rest so we will be ready to travel in the morning. Kara began to protest. Her mind was spinning with 1,000 more questions, but she had already pushed herself further than she should, and her body was insisting that she sleep. No amount of curiosity was able to overcome that need. Lying back, she quickly fell into a deep slumber, waking only when the Dimplethumb returned with leaves and berries. She watched as he brewed some tea, which he brought to her in one of his cups. Remembering the last drink he had served her, she took an eager sip. "Gawk!" she cried. "This is terrible." Making a face, she tried to hand the cup back to him. He growled, which made her flinch, even though by now she understood that the sound was more likely to be the Dimplethumb's version of speech than an actual danger sign. Resting his horn on her shoulder, Lightfoot said, "Drink it. It will help you regain your strength, which you're going to need." Kara grimaced but took the cup back from the Dimplethumb and downed the entire brew. When she was finished, she rubbed her hands over her mouth and said bitterly, "That's worse than the stuff Grandmother Morris gives to me when I'm sick." The thought of her grandmother sent a wave of worry washing over her. Again, as she would often in the days to come, she wondered if the old woman had escaped the man who had been chasing them. "Go back to sleep," Lightfoot told her. "We travel at first light, and you need all the rest you can get." She closed her eyes, but could not sleep. Now that the edge of her exhaustion had been dulled, the questions and fears that filled her mind came to the fore again. She was impossibly far from home, from her grandmother, from everything she had ever known and loved, and she had no idea whether she would ever see any of them again. A tear trickled from the corner of her eye. She lay still in the darkness, looking into the darkness inside, fighting back the memory of her earliest loss, the most painful one of all. The hurt was still strong after all these years. After a time, it merged in her mind with her last afternoon on earth and the terrifying pursuit in that church. She slipped into a fevered dream as her imagination kept struggling and failing to form the face of the man who had chased them. She cried out into the darkness, certain that if she could only see that face, it would solve a great riddle for her.